Alright, I'm gonna be completely honest here. It feels really weird for me to be writing this right after my WandaVision review came out. Like, I'm writing this once again on the day that Falcon and the Winter Soldier finished, just because I had to. This show is amazing. It's one of the best, if not the best MCU creation I have ever seen. It's probably my favorite show to come out of Disney Plus and one of my favorite shows of all time. Now, allow me to tell you why. From the very start of this wonderful show, it captures your attention, and it does so with what I like to call comic book scenes. Scenes that are shot fast-paced and that usually involve a fight scene, but really they just exude an energy that is a comic book movie with comic book characters. It also adds some world building with the return of Batroc, which is another point in the column of comic book feeling. It also serves as good exposition for Sam Wilson. In a short period, we are given information on what he's been doing with his time and the people he's been working with after being brought back to life. I don't want to say it would be boring if they had done it a different way. I just like how it's done in the show. But what follows this is what I must say overshadows the fight scenes in this show, which is admittedly pretty hard to do. A lot of fight scenes in this I think will end up being iconic, specifically the fight between Walker, Bucky, and Sam in episode 5. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. What overshadows the fight scenes, well, you also have the great scene with the Dora Milaje, and that one scene on the truck. Alright, fine, I'll get back on topic. What overshadows these amazing fight scenes is the amount of emotion set up in this show. This emotion just captures you right from the start when you get a good insight into the personal lives of our heroes. You get to meet Sam's family and learn the troubled dynamic he has with his sister because of his career as the Falcon. You also get insight into Bucky's broken life, who really hasn't had all that much time to settle down on things. He's haunted by his past and you can feel his pain. Now, these two things are so important to me when talking about superheroes because it is so often forgotten that superheroes are people. They're characters that have to and should be going through turmoil, not just out fighting villains, but back at home, whether it be mental health problems or problems that start to form in the relationships of the hero. It's these details that make certain characters so popular. The best example of this is probably Spider-Man, who in almost every single adaptation has these flaws or problems. This ultimately makes him a more compelling character and one of the most popular characters in modern media, recognized by millions all across the world. And what makes this emotion even more amazing? It's a huge portion of the show. It's not just the first episode where these heroes have problems. Sam continually has familial issues that he has to deal with. His problems don't go away. He also develops new emotional problems throughout the show when he meets Carly, one of the show's antagonists with the right answer, just probably the wrong formula. You can see his struggle as he attempts to make peace with her, but others around him tend to get in the way. Another of the most emotional parts comes when Sam meets Isaiah Bradley, a super soldier like Steve Rogers who was lost to history thanks to a massive government cover-up. Listening to his story and what everything Isaiah went through is just heartbreaking, to say the least. The scenes are so well performed, genuinely some of the most heart-wrenching stuff from the MCU. Sebastian Stan, who plays Bucky Barnes, also knocks it out of the park in this show. I'm sure you know what I'm about to say, that his performance was emotional? Yeah, you got me there. But what can I say? It's what makes this show so amazing. As I said before, you can feel the pain that Bucky is exuding for a good portion of the show, specifically at the start of episode 4, where Bucky begins to sob as everything just begins to pour over him. All the atrocities he's committed in the past few decades of his life, and his face is the face of a man who has been freed from that pain. Or, well, at least he has the ability to let it go now. Also, speaking of Sebastian Stan's face, later in that episode when Ayo removes his arm, for some reason it's very fascinating to me. It's just this face of utter shock. Perhaps it's a look indicating that he never really gained his autonomy, that there was still some doubt that the Wakandans had. I don't know, I just found that scene to be really interesting. Now to address the elephant in the room. John Walker, who I love.
What? No, all right. I know that's...
Hey, as a villain, Wyatt Russell does such an amazing job creating this character who is just a foil to Steve Rogers, where Steve Rogers is a morally perfect person, which makes him a good Captain America. John Walker is a good soldier, which does not directly translate into the symbol that is Captain America. This is set up immediately as we're introduced to his character. A large, booming celebration, which is reminiscent of Iron Man 2 and the interview which we know for a fact Steve would have hated, as said in the first Avenger. Also, something that I've seen pointed out by others is how they introduce themselves. And Steve Rogers always introduced himself as such, but John Walker always introduces himself as Captain America, an indication that is most definitely intentional. Another compliment to Wyatt Russell with something that stuck with me as I watched the show is the end of episode 4, where he's standing there brooding after murdering a man with the shield that's supposed to protect. There's something about this shot that is just so naturally unsettling to me. It's genuinely creepy and hard to watch as this man slowly transforms into something that resembles a feral animal. This admittedly makes a small redemption moment at the end of the show interesting to me. It seems like a studio decision, not necessarily a creative one. I mean, it's not entirely out of the realm of his character. After all, he just wanted to help people. That, of course, before he smooshed that one dude and took the world's worst steroids that turned him insane. So I have to say, if there are any complaints, this may be it. Small thing, but this may be it. Now, in terms of the show's finale, this is where I saw the most controversy. A few people were disappointed from what I've seen. In fact, it's the worst ranked episode on Rotten Tomatoes at the time of me recording this. I don't really like Rotten Tomatoes, but I figured I should bring up what a big margin it is. I think people have an issue with it, probably because these shows are structured like long MCU movies, with the early episodes being Act 1, the middle being Act 2, and the final episode being the big final battle. It'd be like if you broke the original Avengers movie into a 6-part miniseries, but it was 6 hours long and still ended the same way, with a giant battle in New York against the Chitauri, if that makes sense. But I personally loved this episode. One reason I love this episode is Sam's Captain America suit, which I'm not ashamed to say I verbally shouted seeing it. It's one of the best adaptations of a comic book suit that I have ever seen. It is so good, and it worked with Anthony Mackie so well. He looks exactly like Sam Wilson in that suit. I'm so excited to see him as Captain America. I'm sorry for nerding out, but it's legitimately one of the best superhero costumes in live action. I'm living for these comic accurate suits, whether it be Wanda's, Sam's, or Walker's. Whoever made that decision deserves a raise. Just saying. Another favorite moment, or rather moments from the final episode, is to see all of the closure that Bucky gets. After using all his strength to save people, he's finally regarded as a hero. Just to see the look on his face when the man says thank you. Once again, amazing job by Sebastian Stan. There's so much told to us as an audience in one moment with that expression. It's also amazing to see how proud Bucky is of Sam. How proud he is to see Sam wielding the shield also shows his acceptance of Steve's passing. It shows that Steve was right about Sam, and right about Bucky too. And it all accumulates to when he says, "Nice job, Cap." Bucky also finally gets the strength to give Yori closure about his son while simultaneously giving himself closure. But what truly may be the best is seeing Bucky have a home, a place where he can be a real person and not be drawn into a fight. It's also so beautiful. And to me, there's so much beauty in this last episode, whether it be Sam's speech to the entire world, proving that he's as much of a moral compass as Steve was, which makes a person Captain America. Carly's death and her realization that Sam is a good person. Isaiah Bradley finally getting the recognition he deserves. And that's just in the last episode. There's so much in this show that's amazing, whether it be the incredible use of lighting throughout the show to help with visual storytelling, or the dialogue between the characters showing their ideologies. Whether it be Sam, Zemo, Bucky, Carly, or Walker, you have this huge battle of ideologies going on, and sometimes you don't know who to side with. I mean, sometimes you definitely know who you're not supposed to be with, but what may be the most beautiful of all is at the end of the episode when the new title creeps across the screen. Captain America, and the Winter Soldier, solidifying the strong friendship between these characters. Alright, well, I guess this is it. No false endings this time, I promise. I have to say I'm personally dissatisfied with my review, which is weird to say because I'm a semi-perfectionist and really want to portray just how much I love and appreciate this show in words, but I don't know if I ever fully could. I want to convey just how much I loved it and want to convince you to love it as well, but it's hard to do. Well, in a timely fashion, at least. I could, of course, rewatch the show again, but I'm afraid I don't have the time. Here's some benchmarks. I like the show more than WandaVision. In fact, I would say that I'd rather rewatch this than WandaVision because it has a plot independent from mystery. I did hail WandaVision for its mysteries in my review, but when thinking about it further, I thought about how that mystery is a core of WandaVision's plot. But when the viewer is already knowing the mystery, is the show interesting? I don't know yet. I have to rewatch WandaVision. It's just something I thought I'd bring up because it's something that has been crossing my mind as of late. I also feel like I like this show more than The Mandalorian, which I hailed as my favorite Disney Plus show, so I guess it's safe to say that this is my favorite. Well, anyway, that's going to do it for me. If you like this video, show your support by smashing that like button, which feels wrong to say. Did you agree with my opinions, disagree? Maybe you even want to share your thoughts. All that and more can be done in the comments below. Another way to support me is to share this video with a friend, someone who loved this show or loves the MCU, or maybe you want to convince someone how good this show is. Also, if you happen to be new to my channel, feel free to subscribe if you want to keep up with my content, and if you want to super keep up with my content, click on that little bell to receive notifications for when I upload. All of it, of course, is free, and if you decide to change your mind, you can do that too. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.